She'll tell herself she's fine. She'll post pictures, laugh with her friends, and act like your silence doesn't affect her in the slightest. On the surface, she looks confident, happy, and in control. But that's just the mask she wears for the world, and more importantly, for herself. Deep inside, there's a storm she's fighting, a mix of confusion, regret, and emotions she's trying hard to suppress. Your silence, your withdrawal, it becomes the mirror that forces her to face what she's been running from. She starts to realize that your presence wasn't just noise, it was balance, comfort, and something she took for granted until it was gone. In the beginning, she might feel powerful. She'll think ignoring you, walking away, or acting indifferent gives her the upper hand. But as the days pass, the silence starts to echo louder than any argument or apology could. She begins to notice the emptiness in moments where you used to exist. The late night conversations, the random messages, the feeling of being understood. She tells herself she's fine, but her mind keeps revisiting your voice, your words, your presence. That's the quiet punishment silence delivers. It doesn't shout, it just makes her confront the truth she don't want to admit. Every time her phone lights up, there's a split second of hope. Maybe it's you. Maybe you finally reached out, but it never is, and that reality stings more than she'll ever admit. That's when the facade starts to break, the laughter seems forced, the distractions feel empty, and the peace she's pretending to have starts slipping away. Your silence becomes a constant reminder of what she's lost. Not just you, but the version of herself that felt valued and connected when she had you. The truth is, people often don't realize the impact of someone's presence until that presence is replaced by silence. When you stop chasing, when you stop explaining, it forces her to hear the sound of her own actions. She begins to replay everything. The moment she dismissed your effort, the time she acted like she didn't care, the way she thought you'd always be there no matter what. And that realization cuts deep because now she can't undo it. She can't reach back into that space and fix what her pride broke. What hits her hardest isn't the silence itself, it's the control you've shown through it. She expected anger, reaction, emotion, but instead you chose peace. And that peace speaks volumes. It shows her that you're not dependent on her validation anymore, and that's what truly disturbs her. Your silence reflects your strength. It tells her that you've grown beyond the need to prove your worth to someone who couldn't see it when you were right in front of her. So while she's pretending she's fine, deep down she knows she's not. Because silence, when it comes from someone who once cared deeply, is the loudest form of realization there is. It's the moment she understands that you finally walked away and this time you're not coming back. At first, she'll think your silence is a game. She'll convince herself you're trying to get a reaction, that you're waiting for her to chase, that it's all temporary. She'll tell her friends he'll be back because she believes she still has that power over you. But as time passes, and the days turn into weeks, that confidence starts to fade. She begins to realize that your silence isn't a strategy, it's a decision. You're not withholding attention to manipulate her. You're doing it because you've finally chosen peace over chaos, self-respect over validation, and that realization shakes her to her core. When she starts to see that you're not reacting, not checking up, not engaging, it creates a space she never expected, a space where she's forced to face herself. That's when the emotional reversal begins. What she thought was control starts to slip from her hands, and suddenly she's the one replaying every memory, every message, every moment. Your silence becomes the trigger for her introspection. She starts to wonder, was I too harsh? Did I push him too far? Did he finally stop caring? Those questions swirl in her mind, and the answers aren't comforting. She'll begin to notice your absence everywhere. The places you used to go together feel colder. The songs you once shared sound different now. Even the quiet moments remind her of you because silence used to mean peace when you were around, but now it only reminds her of loss. That's the beauty of your silence. It doesn't demand attention, but it commands it. It doesn't chase, it attracts. And it does so because it represents strength, something she didn't expect from you after everything that happened. Her pride will fight it. She'll resist the urge to reach out. She'll post things to seem unbothered, maybe even trying to make you jealous. But that's all surface level damage control, a mask for the growing discomfort she feels inside, because the truth is your silence dismantles her sense of importance. It makes her question her impact. It makes her realize that she no longer has access to your energy, your warmth, your attention, the things she once took for granted. And that loss becomes a heavy weight she carries quietly. Over time, she starts to understand the cost of her actions. She realizes that walking away from someone who cared deeply isn't empowerment, it's a mistake. She might never say it out loud, but it lingers in her thoughts, especially at night when there's no one to distract her. That's when your silence becomes the loudest. It speaks through her regrets, through the emptiness that no new attention can fill. And that's the essence of the no contact power. It's not about punishment. It's about reclaiming your self-worth. It's the silent transformation that happens when you stop fighting for someone who stopped showing up for you. Eventually, she'll realize that your silence wasn't distance, it was dignity. And that understanding will haunt her more deeply than any words ever could. As your silence continues, something subtle yet powerful begins to shift inside her. At first, she told herself she didn't care, she acted unbothered, convinced herself that walking away was her choice, her control. But silence has a way of breaking down illusions, and over time, it forces her to face what she's been avoiding. The emotional truth beneath her pride. The more she tries to distract herself, the more your absence echoes in her thoughts. It's like an unfinished conversation that plays in her head and she can't mute it no matter how hard she tries. She'll start to remember the little things, the way you used to listen without judgment, the way your energy grounded her, the way she felt understood when she was with you. Those memories surface in moments she least expects, when she's scrolling through old photos, hearing a familiar song, or sitting alone late at night. Each reminder chips away at the walls she built to protect her ego. That's when the conflict begins inside her heart, the struggle between what she feels and what she's trying to prove. Your silence becomes a mirror. It reflects back everything she once ignored. The moments she took for granted, the care she dismissed, the loyalty she tested. And now, with you gone, she can see it clearly. It's not that she suddenly realizes your worth because you disappeared. It's that your absence removes the noise, the distractions, the emotional drama. It forces her to see the quiet truth. She pushed away someone who genuinely cared, and now she's left with emptiness disguised as independence. She may try to fill that void with attention from others, convincing herself she's moved on, but deep down, she'll notice it's not the same. No matter how many people she talks to, no one replicates the connection she had with you. No one gives her that same emotional depth, that same feeling of being seen. And the more she tries to replace you, the more she realizes how irreplaceable you actually were. That realization doesn't come suddenly. It creeps in slowly, like a shadow she can't escape. Eventually, she'll start questioning her own actions. She'll replay the moments where she could have chosen differently, where she could have been softer, more appreciative, less defensive. That's when regret takes root. Not because you're gone, but because she knows she had something real and lost it by choice. It's a quiet, torturing regret, the kind that doesn't fade easily because it lives in her daily thoughts, her routines, her solitude. Your silence isn't punishment, it's clarity. It's the natural response of someone who's done fighting for what was never reciprocated. And in that clarity, she begins to see her own reflection. The parts of herself she tried to hide beneath pride and control. That's why your silence hurts her more than any argument ever could. It forces her to see the truth she's been avoiding. She didn't lose you because you stopped caring. She lost you because she stopped appreciating what she had when it was right in front of her. When she realizes your silence isn't an act of manipulation but a sign of peace, it begins to haunt her differently. At first, she might think you're playing games, that you're waiting for her to chase you. But as time passes and you remain still, no calls, no texts, no reactions, she starts to sense something deeper. She begins to feel that you've detached, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. And that's the moment it truly begins to sink in. You're no longer emotionally accessible to her. That kind of silence, the one that doesn't beg, doesn't explain, doesn't argue, it's the kind that carries power. It tells her you've accepted what is and chosen to move forward without needing closure from her. she'll start to test that silence. Maybe she'll post something meant to get your attention or mention you indirectly through friends. She might even act like she's perfectly fine, smiling in photos, appearing unbothered. But behind that facade, there's unease. Because deep down, she's wondering why you're not reacting. Why isn't your silence breaking? Why aren't you chasing like before? That's when confusion turns to curiosity, and curiosity turns into emotional discomfort. She starts to realize that she no longer has control over your emotions, that the power dynamic has shifted completely. Your calmness becomes unsettling for her because it's unfamiliar. She was used to your presence, your effort, your reassurance. And now all she gets is silence. Silence that speaks louder than any words ever could. Every day that passes without a reaction from you reinforces the truth that you've accepted her decision and walked away with your dignity intact. That unsettles her because now she's left alone with her thoughts, her guilt, and the memories she can't shake. It's during this stage that she begins to replay everything, your patience, your consistency, your care. She compares that with the temporary tension she's getting elsewhere, and it doesn't feel the same. The surface level interactions can't replace the depth of emotional connection she once had with you. That realization doesn't come easily. It comes in waves. It hits her when she's alone, when the noise fades and she's left with the echo of what she lost. That's when your silence starts to feel like a mirror reflecting her choices back at her. You see, silence isn't just the absence of words. It's the presence of strength. It's your way of saying, I respect myself enough not to fight for someone who stopped valuing me. And in doing so, you create the kind of impact that words never could. She'll feel it in her soul, not because you're trying to hurt her, but because your peace reminds her of what she disturbed. Is the kind of realization that comes too late when she finally understands that your silence wasn't weakness. It was the loudest way of saying you've moved on. The hardest truth she'll face is that your silence is not revenge, it's growth. You're not ignoring her to get even, you're simply done giving energy to what no longer values it. That shift is powerful because it's not about her anymore, it's about you reclaiming control over your peace. When you stop explaining yourself, stop defending your worth, stop trying to prove that you cared, it sends a message stronger than any argument ever could. She begins to understand that she's no longer the center of your emotional world. That realization doesn't come with fireworks. It comes in quiet moments, the ones where she feels your absence more than your presence ever did. She'll start noticing how you're not chasing her like before, how you're not reacting to her subtle attempts to get your attention. The silence that once felt like emptiness to you now becomes your greatest weapon of self-respect. It shows her that you've accepted the loss, not as defeat, but as redirection. You're not angry, you're not bitter, you're simply done. That kind of energy, that calm detachment, is something she can't compete with because it's born from clarity. She begins to see that she's not dealing with the same person anymore. The version of you that needed her validation no longer exists. And the irony is, that's exactly what makes her start to feel the regret. When someone loses the emotional power they once had over you, it shakes them. She begins to wonder if you ever cared at all, or if she just overestimated her importance in your life. But deep down she knows you cared deeply, maybe more than anyone else ever did. And that's what stings the most. Because now she sees that your love wasn't weak. It was pure. She realizes too late that she mistook your kindness for neediness, your loyalty for dependence. Now every bit of your silence becomes a reflection of your evolution. You're not ignoring her. You're focusing on you. You're rebuilding, redirecting, and rediscovering who you are without her shadow hovering over your self-worth. That's when she finally understands that what you found within yourself is something she can no longer reach. She can't disturb your peace anymore, can't shake your confidence, can't control your emotions. You've outgrown the version of you that made her feel powerful, and that's what truly gets to her. The realization that she no longer has access to the man who once would have done anything for her. Your silence becomes her mirror, forcing her to face what she lost. It's not your words that haunt her, but your absence. because in that absence lies everything she took for granted. Your care, your effort, your consistency. You didn't punish her, you just stopped participating in your own pain. And in doing so, you became untouchable. When she realizes you've truly moved on, that's when the silence cuts the deepest. It's not the kind of silence that comes from anger or ego. It's a silence that comes from acceptance, from peace, from finally letting go. You no longer need her to validate your worth. You no longer wait for her messages, her attention, or her approval. You've detached emotionally, and that quiet strength is something she can feel, even from miles away. She knows the difference between a man who's pretending to be over her and a man who has genuinely outgrown her. And that's what eats at her. The realization that she no longer has any control over your emotions. At first, she might still expect you to break the silence. Maybe she assumes it's just another phase of the no contact game, something temporary. But days turn into weeks and weeks into months, and your silence remains unshaken. That's when the truth starts to sink in. You were never playing a game, you were healing. You weren't waiting for her to come back, you were rebuilding yourself. She starts replaying every memory in her head, trying to pinpoint the moment when she lost that emotional connection with you. And when she realizes that moment wasn't hers to control, that it happened because you finally chose yourself, that's when her silence begins to mirror yours. Now she's the one scrolling through old messages, wondering why she let it slip away. She sees you changing, growing, glowing differently. Maybe she sees your posts, your progress, the quiet confidence you carry now, and it stings. Because once upon a time, she was part of that story, the reason behind your smile. Now she's just an observer, watching from a distance as the man who once gave her his all no longer looks back. That's not revenge, that's closure, and it's the kind that leaves no room for words. She might tell herself she's fine, that she's moved on to, but deep down, every time she feels the void where your energy used to be, she knows she's lying to herself. Your silence has become her mirror, reflecting everything she lost, not because you left, but because you stopped needing her to complete you. The very peace she took for granted now belongs entirely to you. And nothing hits harder than realizing the person who once craved your presence has become perfectly content in your absence. In the end, the silent battle was never about who reached out first. It was about who found strength in letting go. You didn't win because she missed you. You won because you found yourself again. Your silence wasn't revenge, it was evolution. And now, while she wrestles with the echoes of what could have been, you walk forward free, calm, and untouchable.